Okay, hi folks. We'll just get proceedings going there. First of all, on behalf of the ROSSCARBERY Water Group, I'd like to send a warm welcome to everyone attending here this evening. We thank you for your continued interest in what we all agree is critical importance to the ROSSCARBERY area. Special thanks to the public reps who have made the effort to come here tonight. Deputy Sullivan, Senator Numbers, Councillors, then David Kennedy, Noel, Daniel and Isabel, another local lady. So thank you very much for your interest in the project. Okay, so by way of background, this action group was formed following a public meeting held by Deputy Christopher Sullivan back in August 22, following events in the Water Strand on the 7th of August. Since then, the group has engaged with Cork County Council this year to identify the shortcomings causing pollution and put pressure on to ultimately to find a long-term solution for the ROSSCARBERY area. We had scheduled a hold meeting in September to once again engage with relevant stakeholders and had chosen the date because of holidays. It's hard to get engaged with public bodies and stuff like that, so that was the reason why we had September picked. We then decided to change this to a public meeting following advisory notices again in July and August of this year. Around the same time, a second public meeting was called, and given the work we had done and put into the issue over the last 2 years, we were disappointed this call to action was being cautioned on over the last 2 years. So I suppose if anyone was wondering why there's 2 meetings, there's one, but look, that's, excuse the pun, water under the bridge. We're all working the same thing out. The member of the working group are all locals involved in various local community groups, such as Tidy Towns, Rowing Club, Carby Rangers, Historical Society, Community Council and Business Association. We're all involved in local events such as the Family Festival, Surf and Turf and the Gallyhead Swim, to name just a few, but more importantly we were all just community people. We get involved in projects and tasks such as this for the betterment of our community, for our children and for the people who live and visit us here. So that brings us on to this evening, where we want to outline the work that we have done today in seeking out answers to this recurring problem. What is clear is that there is no quick fix to this solution, and we will need the support of all our public representatives to ensure that this project will be delivered to ROSSCARBERY. The sole aim of the working group is to help progress the ROSSCARBERY project to the top of a long queue, which in this day and age is disappointing in itself. Example of other communities in similar situations locally would be Shannonvale and Dunmanway. We in the working group, we don't purport to be expert in this area, but we found that through engagement and accountability, progress can be made. Ishmael and Cork County Council are happy to continue engagement with a local group, and I propose that this group would remain that contact. The members of the group can of course change, and we're more than happy to open that up to the floor at the end of the night. So, by way of the agenda for this evening, Paul is going to run through his presentation done here on the work and engagement to date, and I'll hand over to Paul.
Thanks very much, Dennis. Dennis upset my setup here now, so I'll just have to. So thanks Dennis, and thanks to everybody who made the effort to come out here this evening. It's great to know there's such interest in ROSSCARBERY and making it better for everybody going forward. Thanks to all the local representatives who made the effort to be here this evening: Deirdre, Daniel, Isabel, Tim, Christopher, and Noel, of course. Thanks very much. So look, we'll just crack on, and we'll try and get through it as fast as we can. The objective of this evening is to show everybody the work that not just the action group, but the people of ROSSCARBERY have done to rectify this issue. So here we go. So why are we here tonight? So we're here tonight to inform the public of what we know has happened. We're going to give you a full outline of the correspondence and the work carried out by the action group, and what stage are we at now, and what does this mean going forward. So I'm just going to give you a little shoot back to the 14th of August 22, a couple of headlines that we saw around the place. And just one headline that didn't quite make the papers was from a local businessman here, Shane Goggin. Armageddon was the word he used, and I think it described the day very, very well. So, I don't know, does anybody want to be reminded of the day, but that's what happened. So we'll rock on to the 19th of August 22. Deputy O'Sullivan, thank you very much, called a public meeting here in the Celtic Ross. The main reason for the meeting was to understand the causes and/or the solutions to the ongoing failure of the treatment plant. The meeting was very casual, informative, and we thank Deputy O'Sullivan for spearheading what ultimately was the formation of the action group here in ROSSCARBERY. The members of the group, we have Dennis Callan, we've got Kieran here, we've Chris O'Donovan, Noel Donovan, Neil Grant, myself, Paul Melody, Mike Watch, and Jeffrey Wycherley. Who do we represent? Well, Dennis has already gone down through them, I'll just do them again. Just a couple of examples: ROSSCARBERY Tidy Towns, ROSSCARBERY Historical Society, the Business Association, the Community Council, ROSSCARBERY Rowing Club, and Carbery Rangers GAA. That's just a few. On the day of this public meeting, we took names and email addresses of the people who were present. A mail shot group was created, and we sent out our first correspondence on the 1st of September, or the 21st of September 22. So this was the first email that we sent out to our little mail shot group. Just a couple of key points from that email. We have come to understand that a report was commissioned by Cork County Council in 08-09 regarding the plant. We believe that the result of this report states that the plant is non-compliant. We are in the process of requesting a copy of this report from Cork County Council. Once we receive the report and have reviewed the information, we will then be in a position to engage with Irish Water to have the scheme relisted for upgrade. That was a long-term plan. In the short term, there are a range of measures that Cork County Council are required to put in place to prevent overflows, and we are requesting that these be documented and monitored going forward until the required upgrade has been completed. If anybody, that bottom line there, and that still stands, if anybody knows of anybody who'd like to be added to that mailing list, particularly anybody in the room tonight, just come up to us afterwards and we'll make sure you're added to any correspondence going forward. So that was our first email shot out. What did we do first as an action group? So as it said there in the email, we were made aware of the report that was carried out in 08-09 by Cork County Council. The results stated then that the plant was non-compliant. We requested copies of this report from Cork County Council. We were not furnished this report as we were told it would not be relevant. We'll come back to that in a further slide. But Cork County Council did agree to meet with us in the future regarding short-term procedures. So this was our first official correspondence with Cork County Council. A couple of key points our objectives that we put forward to Cork County Council in that were: we as an action group and as representatives of the people of ROSSCARBERY wanted to keep ROSSCARBERY sewage and water and water quality items to the front of mind, to ensure that all work requiring to be done to regain a blue flag for the Warren in the short and long term is upheld, and to keep the Onahinch at ROSSCARBERY septic tank upgrade as a high priority item for Irish Water and Cork County Council. We wrote on behalf of this committee, and we had three asks. Further to the above, the ROSSCARBERY Community Group wished to clarify that a meeting take place with Irish Water yet. If so, how did it go? We are also looking for an update as to investigations to the incident relating to the sewage plume of Sunday the 14th of August, and to see is there any clarity as to what happened and how this event occurred. We also understand that an independent consultant's report does exist that was commissioned by Cork County Council about the sewage system in ROSSCARBERY Onahinch and upgrades recommended. Would it be possible for our community group to see a copy of this report? And then at the very bottom, we just recommended it would be a good idea to meet Cork County Council in person. So I don't know if anybody knows what this number is, but this is the licence registration number given to Irish Water by the EPA. Now I know there was a discussion in a previous meeting here that the EPA should be informed, but when the first issues arose in the Warren, we thought that this document might be something worth looking into. Now for anybody who might be an insomniac or might struggle in sleeping at night, there's 31 pages here that I could prescribe to you that would sort it right out. But we did a bit of looking at the document. We found a few irregularities in it. Obviously the EPA set parameters for Irish Water or Cork County Council to adhere to in regard to their licence. So I'll go through a couple of the key points that we put forward to the EPA. So Irish Water reports for the plant for 2019 has 4 fails of the 6 emission limit value parameters to be met as set out by the licence number D0172-01, and in 2020 had 3 fails of the 6 ELV parameters to be met. The reason for this fail or exceedance as set out in the Irish Water report for 2019 was plant overloaded. Now Irish Water put that in their own report. back to the EPA. So Irish Water are already saying there's an issue. The EPA set out a completion date of the 31st of the 12th, 2018. Improvement works to ensure compliance with the ELVs specified in Schedule A, discharges and discharge monitoring. As specified in the discharge licence issued to Irish Water. Unfortunately, the Onahincha ROSSCARBERY plant has now been removed from the Capital Works RC3 and will now have to wait until 2024 to be reallocated in 25 to 29. This will set up a start date of a minimum of 7 years after the completion date specified by the EPA on the licence. As a result of this information, a working group made up of local business owners, club volunteers and residents has formed to tackle this issue and make this a priority for all official bodies involved. Our objectives will be to keep the ROSSCARBERY sewage and water quality items to the front of mind, to ensure that all work requiring to be done to regain the blue flag, further warn in the short term and long term is upheld, and to keep the non-compliant Onahincha septic tank upgrade as a high priority item for the EPA, Irish Water and Cork County Council. Clearly there is a need for urgent action here from an environmental perspective, and I am sure the EPA do not set out parameters for them to fail. The EPA are responsible for the health of our ecosystems and the people who enjoy them, and I entrust that all will be done to make this of utmost priority. That was our letter to the EPA back in 2022. We got a response. So it was a long-winded letter, but I'll just go through the points that we've highlighted there. So this is what we got back. There was no apparent spillage or discharge of sewage from the ROSSCARBERY Onahincha agglomeration in relation to this bathing water incident when investigated by Cork County Council. The licence for this agglomeration requires that the ROSSCARBERY Onahincha plant be upgraded to comply with the emission limit values in the licence. Wastewater treatment at many areas in Ireland is not as good as it needs to be, and it will take significant and sustained work over many years and a multi-billion euro investment to bring all collecting and treatment systems up to standards. Due to the scale of the issues, it is not possible to fix all the problems in the short term, and therefore the resources that are available must be targeted where they are most needed and will bring the greatest benefits. One of the top national priorities is to provide treatment for towns and villages where all of the raw sewage in the public sewers is discharged into the environment every day without any treatment because the public sewers are not connected to a treatment plant. Now I think this is a staggering figure. In 2022 there was 32 such areas in the country. Due to the legacy of underinvestment in wastewater infrastructure, there are numerous towns and villages such as ROSSCARBERY with treatment systems that are not as good as they need to be. But unfortunately, it is not possible to include all of these in the current list of priority areas. Such areas do have to be addressed, but all of the funding needed to fix all the problems with Ireland's wastewater treatment infrastructure is not currently available. Investment must target the highest priority issues first, such as the priority areas that have no treatment plants. All the issues with Ireland's wastewater treatment infrastructure must be resolved, but this will take many, many years. Ireland must address the highest priority issues first, and these priorities set out in the EPA's annual wastewater report. There's the link if anybody would like to have a look at it later on. The EPA visit report from the 23rd of August 2022 is requiring Irish Water to review the desludging frequency at the 2 septic tanks, install appropriate screenings at the inlets to the septic tanks, confirm whether the wastewater treatment plant is meeting the design criteria for primary treatment, and to prioritise the upgrade of this plant, so that it can meet the emission limit values specified in the licence. Irish Water responded to the EPA visit report on the 26th of October 22, stating that there is currently no budget to increase the frequency of desludging this year. Operations will review the desludging plan early next year. It's intended to desludge before and during the bathing season. Modelling of the discharge is due to commence in 2023. This will take 2 years to complete. Once the modelling is complete, asset planning will have a visibility of the options for this site and will be in a position to assess costs. So this is a reply from Cork County Council on the 26th of November 22 to the email that we sent out first. So nice long email from Cork County Council back, so we'll just go through a couple of the points. So Cork County Council Water Services recognise the serious concerns that the ROSSCARBERY Committee have raised following the alleged incident at the Warren Beach on the 14th of August. It's important to note that Cork County Council has an involvement here in two contexts. As a water services team, which operates public and wastewater infrastructure on behalf of Irish Water through a service level agreement, Since 2014, Irish Water is the statutory authority for public water and wastewater services and is responsible for investment in the maintenance and upgrade of facilities. As an environment department, secondly, as an environment department which monitors water quality in designated bathing areas. At the very top here, this is our first question that we put in our original email. So further to the above, the ROSSCARBERY Community Group wish to clarify, did a meeting take place with Irish Water yet, and if so, how did it go? Yes, Cork County Council Water Services and our Environment team met with Irish Water Asset Planning Capital team and its wastewater operations team on the 28th of October 22. Cork County Council Water Services is pleased to inform the ROSSCARBERY community that an Irish Water Asset Planning Capital team has confirmed that ROSSCARBERY Onahincha will be assessed under the South Cork Region Marine Modelling Study alongside a number of other Irish water agglomerations in the South Cork coast. This study is one of 4 lots of strategic modelling studies which went to tender on the 1st of November 2022. This tender is for Phase 1 environmental scoping reports for each study to be delivered in accordance with Irish Water's marine modelling standard. In short, the ESR will identify, collate and review the existing data tools pertaining to the Irish Water discharges at ROSSCARBERY Onahincha, receiving waters and sensitive receptors. This is the first step on a capital project process, as the outputs from the modelling and analysis will be used to inform and assess the needs and future investment requirements at ROSSCARBERY Onahincha. This ESR is particularly important for exposed areas such as the Cork South Coast, so while Irish Water is committed to expedite the process, some of the programme factors are outside its control. An example of this would be a foreshore licence application. Our second question was, we are also looking for an update as to investigations on the incident relating to the sewage plume of Sunday the 14th of August and to see if there are any clarities to what happened and how this event occurred. Please note that our wastewater technical teams carried out an extensive investigation of the operation, review of the existing public wastewater infrastructure, a review of the local authority investigation arising from a reported pollution event, and our proposed local authority Irish Water operations and maintenance duties scheduled for 2023. In conclusion, our wastewater operations team found no conclusive evidence that the pollution event was caused by a malfunction or overflow of the public wastewater infrastructure. So look, just a couple of murmurs in the room there. Look, the sampling was done the following day. We know the reasons that they didn't find evidence of that, okay? It is important to note that our team had a very prompt response to the incident, as our local curator was in the area at the time. We have confirmed that none of the wastewater infrastructure had malfunctioned at the time of the incident. We will continue to strive to deliver a high-level service in the operation and maintenance of the Irish Water wastewater infrastructure, including the additional proactive initiatives for 2023. Enhanced monitoring on the volume of sludge in the septic tank, desludging frequency to be reviewed by the local authority in Irish Water to investigate the feasibility of adding an extra desludging operation for 2023, bringing the total to 3 numbers of desludging events for 2023. Irish Water and the local authority propose to include funding allocation for 2023 for enhanced monitoring, for undertaking wastewater plant health checks by specialist contractor in March 23, which will inspect the pump stations in the agglomeration. Local authority in Irish Water to explore options of installing temporary battery-operated flow and load monitoring equipment to provide enhanced monitoring of the effluent discharge from the ROSSCARBERY Onahincha septic tank during the summer bathing season, to ensure that if there is a pollution event during the summer of 2023, that it will be recorded if it occurs. Due to legacy reports of high levels of FOGs in the network, fats, oils and greases, we will request Irish Water Source Control Team to engage with local businesses to advise on the correct disposal of such. I think the Celtic Ross might have been subject to such a...
I think the Celtic Ross was the only one.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Irish Water Communications Team will undertake a PR awareness campaign to inform the public on what not to flush, to assist in preventing potential blockages in the network pump stations caused by items such as wet wipes, sanitary products, etc. Our final question was, we also understand an independent consultant's report does exist that was commissioned by Cork County Council about the sewage system in ROSSCARBERY Onahincha and upgrades recommended. Would it be possible for our community group to see a copy of this report? So yes, they confirmed that there was a preliminary report done in 2009. The preliminary report is now dated and no longer relevant. Many parameters would have changed significantly during the last 13 years. Cork County Council Water Services notes you requested a meeting to relation to above, and they did indeed meet us. So this was the date of the meeting. We, much to Kieran Callan's discussed, we met via Zoom as opposed to in person. But we did meet with them online on the 31st of May 2023. So this was our second or our third correspondence that we sent out to the public. It summed up the meeting and the main points that were in it. So in attendance at the meeting, there was 8 members of Cork County Council, there was 2 members of Irish Water, there was 6 members of, we were ROSSCARBERY Community Council or ROSSCARBERY Water Group, and there was two local representatives. On the 31st of May 2023, members of ROSSCARBERY Community Council met with Cork County Council and Air to discuss the incident at the Warren Strand last August. The procedures that will be put in place for the summer to prevent this happening again, and the long-term capital project of an upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant. It was confirmed by Cork County Council that there has been additional funding for an extra desludging this summer, with 3 desludgings confirmed and approved for 2023. This is 1 extra on previous years. On top of this monitoring system has been put in place to monitor the influent and effluent. This monitoring is also a crucial part in determining the size of the capital project. You might have noticed works took place on the cliff walk. This was an upgrade of 9 rising mains manholes along the route. It was confirmed that these manholes were corroded, and this was leading to strong odours during busy periods. All pumping stations have now been upgraded and are remotely alarmed to prevent overflow. The wastewater treatment plant incident around it from last August has resulted in increased focus. There is no lunar clock in place, and that discharge is in accordance with the rate of influence. And there are 2 settling tanks as the wastewater flows through and settled water discharges on the other side, not treated water. As there is no electricity on the site, a lunar clock is not the option at the moment. The long-term plan included an environmental plan which requires tender, discharge, modelling, design and construction. The capital timeline was discussed as being 4 years, but this could increase to 5. And ROSSCARBERY Community Council will continue to be updated by Cork County Council on testing during the summer and any updates on the capital project. So we did receive this mail shot, I think in August or September of last year. So for anybody who hasn't seen a copy of this, I'll just read out what it says. So desludging operations at ROSSCARBERY Unahincha septic tank. There was desludging works carried out on the 9th, 13th, 14th, 15th and 30th of June. There was desludging works scheduled for the 1st of October 2023. There was confined space deep cleaning works carried out on the 22nd of June and the 13th of July 23. There was annual deep cleaning works carried out in January 23 and the following wastewater pump stations. So the boathouse, which is the one down at the lagoon, the Celtic Ross across the road, the Mill Road, which is the top end of the lagoon. We also have the Warren Cross and then the main one above it, Unahincha. Jetting works were carried out on 14th and 15th June on the Unahincha foul sewer network. CCTV surveys of the line were also carried out to determine the condition of the line and to identify points of network infiltration. Jetting and CCTV works were carried out on the section of foul sewer along Strand Road. CCTV surveys of the line were also carried out in order to determine the condition of the line and its structural integrity. Impellers and wear rings were replaced in the foul pumps at the Warren wastewater treatment plant on the 26th of June 23 to improve pump efficiency. Wastewater operations teams were pleased to report that there were no major malfunctions of Irish Water or ROSSCARBERY Air's wastewater infrastructure during the 23 summer bathing season. Wastewater operations intend to continue to focus on providing the best outcome here for the community and are committed to continued collaboration with the various parties involved. So fast forward then to the mail shot or the newsletter we got from Irish Water at the beginning of the season for 24. Now we continue to correspond with Cork County Council, mainly Irish Water, because Cork County Council, the full transition had been done to Irish Water at this stage. Irish Water are now the main body for any correspondence or actions taken, and Cork County Council are merely the feet on the ground for Irish Water as such. So we continue to liaise with with Irish Water all throughout the winter, and basically to make sure that what we had agreed in 2023 was continued in 2024. So this is what we got confirmation of what was going to happen. So desludging works were carried out on the 19th, 20th, 21st and 22nd of March 24. Desludging works commenced recently on July 3rd, 24 and are ongoing. Desludging works are scheduled for again in October 24. There's more confined space deep cleaning works. They were carried out on the 8th of July 24. Annual deep cleaning works were carried out in January 24 on the following wastewater pump stations: the Warren, Onahincha, Celtic Ross, the Lagoon, Mill Road. Extensive jetting works were carried out in Quarter 2, Quarter 3 and Quarter 4 of 23 on the Onahincha foul sewer network. CCTV surveys of the line were also carried out to determine the condition of the line and to identify points of network infiltration. A large amount of network infiltration was identified and measures were taken to prevent this ingress to the wastewater network. As a result, flows to the Onahincha wastewater plant have been greatly reduced, therefore reducing the loading on the septic tank. Jetting CCTV works were carried out on the section of foul sewer along the Strand Road, ROSSCARBERY, and on the Burgashta Road, ROSSCARBERY. CCTV surveys of these sections of network were also carried out in order to determine the condition of the lines and their structural integrity. Groundwater infiltration to the network has been identified, and works are currently being planned to eliminate this groundwater ingress to again reduce the loading on the septic tank. Mechanical and electrical repairs that have undergone or were scheduled to be done. So 2 new foul pumps were installed in the Celtic Ross across the way here. 1 new foul pump was installed at the Lagoon in March 24. A new electrical control panel has been installed in the Warren, along with an overall electrical upgrade of the station. Anyone local will have seen the vans parked in Warren there. It would have been faster to knock it and rebuild it with the amount of time they've spent down there. And an 80-metre section of wastewater network was replaced in Onahincha. So the 16th of July, after all that work that was done, the 16th of July 24, one of these guys was flown again. So we contacted Irish Water for an update, and we got this response. We are investigating if any issues occurred at an Ishka Air site in the area. However, to date, no incidents have been reported. It is important to note that bathing water quality is contingent on a number of factors, including overflows from wastewater collection systems, runoff from roads, agriculture and forestry, septic tank discharges, animal waste, leaks and spills. At present, there are no upgrade works underway or planned for ROSSCARBERY wastewater treatment plant. An impact assessment under the South Cork Regional Marine Modelling Study for ROSSCARBERY Onahincha is at Phase 1 environmental scoping report stage, following which phases 2 to 4 will be carried out. This is the first step on a capital project process with the outputs used to inform and assess needs and future investment requirements. So the 12th of August 24, an advisory not to swim at Onahincha. So look, that was the last real kind of event. What do we do now? So we know we're at the early stages of the capital project, and Irish Water have confirmed that modelling has begun. So I think that's really important. The process has started. This is really where our local representatives come into play, keeping the pressure on the people who count, on the people who can make these decisions, on the people who make sure the priority for these projects and the money that's allocated to these projects that's promised comes true. The next steps for us and members of everybody in ROSSCARBERY and as the action group, we are meeting Irish Water and Cork Council in September to get an update on modelling and a timeline for the capital project. We'll be asking Irish Water where or are they sampling. We will be informing them that the estuary isn't sampled during the bathing season and the lagoon was being sampled up to the summer of 2023. Why was this stopped? We will also be suggesting that they continue sampling these areas all year round. And finally, when we have that done, we'll send out another mail shot to everybody in the public again, updating them of that meeting and any further developments. So look, thanks everyone for listening to me tonight. I know it was not the most riveting of stuff. Look, the main point here is that something is being done. I know people say, why aren't you doing anything, or will somebody do something? Look, we've worked really hard here to keep this as a priority item for all our local representatives who are here with us tonight. And in fairness, it is making national media. This is a high priority item on the agenda for Irish Water, for the EPA. They don't want to be hearing from us, and we're going to make sure that is the case until we get the result that we want. Thanks to everybody in the public for their patience. We know it's really very, very hard to be patient when we see ROSSCARBERY being portrayed so negatively in the media. That's not what we want for the fabulous place that we live in. So look, what we're going to do now is we're going to open up the floor for some questions. I'm going to give all our public representatives who have joined us here tonight a chance to have a few words. Look, I'm conscious that we're moving on a small bit. We don't want to be here all night, so maybe we might keep it brief, if that's all right.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul, for the fabulous presentation. Thank you for the introduction, Dennis, and to the committee for inviting us. I suppose I would have vested interest in this as somebody who works here in the hotel, and when this happened in 2022, Mr. Neil Grant was my boss here in the hotel, so I was watching him on a daily basis and getting fairly agitated in relation to the matter. Aside from that, I am from Dunmanway, and Dennis did mention that Dunmanway is one of the other areas in the area that is affected by this. We have met, Noel and I have attended the Chamber of Commerce meetings for the past, I'm not sure how long, in relation to this, and about 6-8 months ago it was decided to set up a subcommittee in relation to the wastewater treatment in Dunmanway, and since then there's been a number of engagements with Irish Water and with Cork County Council, and I suppose in isolation a lot of these stakeholders don't need to promise anything. However, we have found that by bringing them together to meetings scheduled quite regularly, we have made progress. A few options at the most recent meeting, and I know the most recent meeting was held in Dunmanway about 4 weeks ago now, and also Councillor Sexton was there also, and we did come to an agreement whereby we will meet on a regular basis, and the project itself, we've been advised, is going to take 10 years to rectify. We said that can't be acceptable. It isn't acceptable in a town where one house was built last year. So interim options have been put in place. Cork County Council and Irish Water have undertaken to review these and to examine these options, and we will meet again in another few months. And I think in terms of ROSSCARBERY and indeed Shannon Vale as well, we need to, I think this is the best way forward, open lines of communication, having all the stakeholders in the same room together, because in isolation it's not going to work. And I can see my colleague at the back, Councillor Joe Carroll, at numerous conferences in the last year or two. He has brought up, Queen Irish Water were in attendance at the conferences at many areas around the country. He has brought it up on numerous occasions, and he has got the same old answer all the time. But by having all of the stakeholders in the same room at the same time, you've a better chance of creating some kind of solution. And thank you again to the committee, and well done on your good work. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thanks for having us here tonight, and well done to the committee and all the work that they've done. I'm new to this public speaking, so I'm a little bit nervous, so I'll keep it very quick. Look, we have the same problems behind the Dunmanway and Shannon Vale, and I think us as elected reps, we will work as hard as we can to get these with the various committees and other members of the DAL and stuff to get to the bottom of it. Irish Water seem to get away with murder around West Cork at the moment. There's 3 places, we all know them. They're just getting away with it. If a farmer was doing the same thing, he would be locked up in the water. His payments would be severely taken off. And so, look, I don't really have anything else to say, only thank you for tonight, and I will do the best I can.
Hi everyone, there's an amazing crowd here tonight, and yeah, well done to everyone for coming, and Your presentation was really good, and it just shows you've been keeping on top of it for a couple of years now, so fair play. That's really, really good information that you've gathered. I got a response from the EPA this morning because I had, following the last meeting a couple of weeks ago, it was decided that we should invite the Air into this meeting, but also the EPA. So they only got back to me this morning, but they said that they would meet the community and a small group of representatives. And yeah, it would be the EPA's wastewater enforcement team, and they would meet to provide an overview of the EPA's role in wastewater enforcement and an update on the wastewater treatment plant for ROSSCARBERY. So I think that's really welcome as well. I don't know if it's best to invite them to the same meeting or have individual ones. I'll leave that up, maybe up to you guys, but I'm happy to help in any way and attend. I feel like we don't need marine modelling. Is there any way we can get out of that? Because it'll be, is it 2026 that we'll get those results, and the capital investment plan runs from 2025, so we'll miss out on that. So it'll be like at least 2030, you know, until we'll get any work done. Because there's enough evidence without the marine modelling, surely. I think we can agree anyway. Yeah. They're the main issues. I suppose in the short term, I think we need to be testing the Warren more regularly. Yeah, like there's kids doing what's called rescue niggers, and it's just not acceptable. Like, and kids are feeling unwell after swimming yesterday in the water. Someone has just told me there. So. Yeah, like we need to be testing more regularly, especially during the winter as well. I've asked the council to do that and they said no, but I'm going to keep putting pressure on, because people in ROSSCARBERY use the water every single day of the year. Yeah, I think that was everything. Oh, I've also asked the legal team of Cork County Council to attend one of these meetings, just because again at the last meeting there was calls for the potential for legal action. What would that entail? What would that look like? Just as a sort of, you know, just to look at all avenues, and I think we need advice on that. I think it's worth looking at. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I'll be brief. I attended the last meeting, and one of the things I was asked to do was to invite the EPA here, which I did. I spoke to, emailed the EPA, and both the director and the senior management weren't able to attend here tonight. We got a correspondence back from that during the week about the issue itself. I think the EPA have a really important role here. I think Cork County Council or Irish Water now have a remit regarding Irish Water, regarding trying to make sure we actually get a wastewater treatment plant. But the big issue is trying to make sure we actually get this up the line itself. I think that's really important. I would look at how long it would take. I would think potentially take a decade to get what we're looking at the moment. I think that's the real fear. It could take literally that long to make sure this wastewater treatment plant, which is basically a septic tank, to be upgraded. And that is going to be a significant issue for this entire location itself. So my focus here has been trying to make sure that number one, we recognise there's an issue here. I think that's probably one of the big issues here. I think unfortunately the local authorities investigating itself. That's going back to say there's no issue. I think that's unfortunate to say the very least, and be very, very mild in my thoughts on that. I think we need to make sure that the issues of the compliance issues on that site need to be acknowledged. And that is that we have a malfunctioning, basically septic tank that actually is putting effluent into the actual sea itself. I think that's the core issue that needs to be acknowledged. And then after that, then we need to move forward and ask the EPA to move for the story. So, like my history, this would have been places like Baldooley or places like the Halfway, where we got the EPA to move to something called Section 63, which was basically enforcing the local authority at that time to mandate them to do certain issues on the site, which they did, and they cleared up the issues. I think that's probably the best way forward here. But for us, it's trying to make sure that, number one, we get the EPA to acknowledge there's an issue here. I don't think they have acknowledged that problem. And I think that's really important for us. And I think if we can get them to acknowledge there's an issue, the second phase is that we can actually get them to mandate the Irish Water Agency to actually do something. And an example of that would have been, I was talking to a colleague of mine, Fergus, down today up in Loud. They did this in 2023 up in Loud, where there was an issue with wastewater treatment plant, the EPA were mandated the Irish Water Agency to actually do something, and they did it, and they cleared up the issue itself. So there is precedent there. This is how it actually operates. So for me, it's about trying to make sure we actually acknowledge the problem, and then we can actually get the EPA hopefully to actually serve that section of 63, which is a part of the 1991 Local Government Act, which is really a part of piece of legislation. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Dave. Hello, everybody. It's great to see a massive turnout for 2 quick meetings in succession, and I'm absolutely delighted to attend this meeting as well. The more meetings that we can have about this issue, the more attention that we can bring to it, the better. The better, you know, when the press are covering it, when it's eating up the airways, I think there's more likelihood that we can get a resolution to this. So I'm honestly delighted to attend tonight, guys. Fair play for arranging this meeting. Paul, you're definitely better on the PowerPoint presentation than I was. Mine was a bit amateurish, but well done. There's a lot of detail there and a lot of factual content as well, which is really important that we deal with facts. The big challenge that we have, though, I feel, is getting Uisce Éireann to acknowledge that they are responsible for the increased bacteria levels. They are responsible for the beach closures, and no one else. But what I mean by that is, we have a lot of talk here about what's happening in Shannon Vale. In Shannon Vale, at least, Uisce Éireann acknowledging that there's an issue and that there is sewage seeping up through the Pay Park. In Dunmanway, Uisce Éireann are acknowledging that the wastewater treatment plant is not working as per its licence. Here, we've seen 2 headlines within 2 weeks where Uisce Éireann are saying it's not a problem. They mention agriculture. They mention every other possible source of bacteria or of the plumes, but they're not acknowledging responsibility themselves. So that's what we have to do. When you talk about what I suppose you do next as a group and what this community does next, I think it's to provide that unequivocal, undeniable evidence that this is coming from sewage plumes. Because we heard it here the last day at the meeting, and I see a lot of familiar faces, and sorry that you have to hear all this again and hear me go on about it again, but we heard incidents where people were bathing off the pier next to excrement. I mean, they were watching it go past them. We saw where residents who were living down near the cliff walk visibly saw sewage plumes leave the plant. Like, you don't have to be a scientist, you don't need marine modelling to tell you that there's something wrong there. So that's this marine modelling idea, as Isabel's right. They have to go for, in order to do it, they have to go for a foreshore licence, they have to go for what's called a marine area consent licence, a MARA licence. That whole statutory process will take years, just to set up a few probes out in the water to monitor what's coming up. They suggested there in one of the responses to the group here that they would install a battery for loading and modelling. Why can't they do that? Why can't they install some sort of CCTV where you can clearly pick up if sewage is leaving the plant or not? That could be done within months. We could finally get this on a capital programme. Because if we don't get Uisce Éireann to acknowledge that they are the problem, that their wastewater treatment plant is not functioning, it's not working, then we're going to be having these meetings for years to come. So that's the first step. We need them to acknowledge it, because you deserve your beach, right? It's not just a place to train our future lifeguards. It's not just where you can learn to surf, where you can have a lovely cup of coffee near the beach. As I think it was Johnny said at the last meeting, a lot of the amenities around West Cork you have to pay for, guys. This is one of the only free amenities that you have available to you. So yes, it's for the businesses in ROSSCARBERY, yes, it's for the tourists who visit here, but more than anything else, the people of ROSSCARBERY, Onahincha, the surrounding area, you deserve your beach back, and you need to get it back. So what I'm saying is we build the evidence, and we give Uisce Éireann no other option but to acknowledge that this is their fault. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and I'd like to thank the committee for all this meeting and people who are attending today. This is my third meeting in recent weeks. Shannon Vale, Dunmanway and ROSSCARBERY. And I'll be honest with you, and anyone here that knows better, I'd appreciate them telling me, but the problem is accountability. The accountability, we're rotten, stunk rotten at the top, lads. Let me tell you that. There isn't 29 years Shannon Vale are waiting.
Goldeen, 25 years. And how much more ROSSCARBERY, and how much more Dunmanway. Accountability lies, as far as I'm concerned, with the Minister of the Land. The Minister of the Land seems to hand billions of euros to Ishka and walks away. And that's not going to work here. There has to be accountability. There has to be schedule. We cannot be sitting here listening to Ishka telling us you're going to be in the plan for 2025 to 2029. That's what they're listening in Shannonville. That's what they're listening in Dunmanway. And I'm very worried that that's what you're going to be listening here in ROSSCARBERY. We had the Cork County Council, when the Cork County Council were running the show. We had Irish Water and Irish Water running the show. Ishka running the show. And we're 25 years waiting in Goldeen for a sewage system, and the raw sewage is going to the tide. But I can tell you, Councillor Daniel Sexton is right. If a farmer is inside here tonight and he has the slightest infringement, he'll be wiped out. He'll be wiped out. But the EPA are not holding Ishka accountable, and the Minister is not held accountable. And until all these bodies get together and are held accountable and stand up here and say, this is the system that's outdated, we have Shannonville 29 years, we're going to do it next year, we have ROSSCARBERY in the situation it's in now, in a dire situation, that has to be done within the next 6 months, and have some kind of accountability, and some kind of an answer to the people, because I haven't got answers, no matter how I try here, no matter how I try the EPA are running scared. Because I keep pulling on them inside the Dáil. I've done Ishka inside the Dáil on numerous occasions, and the EPA will not answer me straight up questions. They're afraid to answer questions because they're covering up for Ishka. That's what they're doing. It's a scandalous situation we find ourselves in. But my God, given the Parliament had an infringement, there can no one covered up the EPA and the Council and the whole lot will be down his back. I'll do my level best to raise this issue, to push this issue, to get it across the line, to get ROSSCARBERY's beaches cleaned up, get Ishka and put their hands up in the air and say, okay, there's a problem, we're going to sort this problem out, and to hell with their bloody lives and kicking the can down the road. And this is what they're kicking the can down in every community. There's a lot more than the 405 line in there in a crisis situation. But as I said, I'll do my part and you go forward. Thank you.
I may take my turn to say a few words. I suppose, look, I'll be very honest with everyone here. It's not great that we're meeting here tonight to talk about this issue. We'd rather not, that's the first thing I would say. But it is great, as Deputy O'Sullivan said, to see a good crowd here, because this issue deserves a crowd. It deserves to be solved across all the political divide. Every one of us inside this room was worked together to see a solution here. There would have been talk in recent weeks of what has been done by the Action Group on this issue. I think you can all see here the work that's gone on behind the scenes. If there's a criticism, it's probably that it hasn't been communicated, it hasn't been out there in social media, and that is taken on board by the committee. But look, it's just a fact of the world we live in. Unless you're on social media explaining these days, people don't think the work has been done. But whether it's EPA, Ishka, Cork County Council, all the relevant bodies have been communicated in the last couple of years. And have engaged with us, I must say. I know there's a lot of criticism, and they do deserve criticism on lots of issues and lots of areas, but they have engaged with us as a committee. And even when we reached out in recent weeks again to come back and meet the group, they've agreed to come and meet us again at the end of September. So that's where we'll achieve results for ROSSCARBERY. I'm someone that lives in the community here, as you all know, so the pressure's on me to resolve this. I don't want to go down to the Warren and not be able to swim and not be able to enjoy the facility that we should be using. I don't want to be up in the shop and have tourists who come into this wonderful community, wonderful town, and not be able to enjoy the beach. I don't want that. So what's going to happen? This meeting with Ishka is going to be really, really important, because we're going to have to ask them, where is ROSSCARBERY on this capital process? Because that is going to be a solution. That's what's ultimately needed. They have started the modelling process, which in all these projects they have to do. They have to get results. That's how the Cork McSherry's, the Castletownsends, similar villages, similar areas that have the same issues, that's how they get resolved. There is a process to solving these matters. And that's what has started here at ROSSCARBERY. Stage 1 has commenced, and we got that answer in November, just before Christmas in 2022. Granted, we had no issues last summer, but we see them again this summer. So we need to ask, where is it on that process, and how quickly can that be done? They mentioned 2 years that assessment would take, so we need to see where that is. Yes, we all know it's not a treatment plant. They are septic tanks on the top of Creggan, and they are releasing out Not good enough. Not good enough for any members of the farming community that are here, has been rightly said. If that was done, if any farmer was allowing that to happen on their land and their business, they wouldn't be left to operate for very long. So that is what's happening here in ROSSCARBERY. We thought as a committee there was a lunar talk at the start where it would release out on the going tide, not in place. So it releases out at all types of tides. Disgraceful. That shouldn't be happening this year. We need to see movement on that. There's also talk about testing. So at the moment they only test during the bathing season, as Councillor Toots said. That's completely wrong. That beach is used all throughout the year. It should be tested all throughout the year. That is something that I know as all councils we will work at our first meeting back to try and get movement on that. I know from speaking to Councillor Nishgar reps in the last couple of days, they are seeking funding to extend the testing at other parts of the beach and the lagoon area. That was done until 2023. It has stopped, but they are seeking funding next year to increase testing at other locations around the estuary. And that is important because we must rule out other sources of pollution. I've seen videos of other networks and other outflows across the area here that result seems to be leakage out of. So maybe it's not just the plant block again. Maybe there are other parts of the network here that is actually pollution coming out as well. So that's why additional testing is needed throughout the whole area. So that's hopefully going to be done next year. Obviously we need to see confirmation of that. Additionally, what's being done is that they're going to, and I'm not a technical expert on this, but they're putting in a chemical solution into the network here. They're trying it here in ROSSCARBERY. In that it's a chemical that put into the network can feed into the tank, it will improve the bacteria and improve how the plant actually operates. And I asked the question, why isn't that done before now? Where is that done in the country? It hasn't been done anywhere else in the country. So it's something they're going to try here in ROSSCARBERY again, because of the recent issues, because of the work with the community, because of the work with public reps in highlighting this. So I'm not a spokesman for Ishkir, not at all. But this is some of the work that they are trying to do to try and alleviate the solution and problems for us here in ROSSCARBERY in the short term. I'm elected by, my job is to try and fix this. The same as all of our jobs as public representatives, to fix this for our community. And that's what I will do. We will only achieve the solution by working with these groups, by working with Ishkir and bringing the relevant people in and demanding answers, providing solutions for the people we represent. That's how we will achieve progress here. Because I don't want to be coming back here at public meetings for the next 5, 10, 15 years. I don't want to be explaining why I haven't achieved and delivered for this area. I want to see this delivered. And I will work night and day as long as I'm a public rep to ensure that we have a warren and a beach that we can go down to without red flags flying that shouldn't be there. So that's my testament. I look forward to work with the group here, which I'm delighted to be part of. As someone who works in family business here in Ross, I'm delighted to work with the group and try and find a solution for us. So thank you very much.
I think just in the interest of fairness, Joe, do you want to say a few words? I'll meet you halfway, Joe.
There's a lot said already, I'm sure. Right, okay, I'm glad to be here to show you support in any way at all I can. And well, what I would say anyway is politicians can do anything about this kind of an issue. Well, you have a lot of money on your side tonight anyway. There's not a lot of people here. But I have argued over and over with Irish Water at various conferences. And I can go back 10 years ago within Killarney at an Irish Water conference. I took 2 or 3 of the more senior guys into a hallway and I discussed with them the situation in Shannon Bay. They were shaking their head with disbelief and they were going to get back to me within a week. Didn't get back to me yet. Now, what I want to say here tonight is, where has it all gone wrong? It all went wrong in the formation of Irish Water. Should have never have happened. Because I remember when it happened, and I'm sure I was a councillor with Tim Dunbar. We were looking at the county hall and looking at the county hall in Kerry. The exodus of engineers and staff, they were passing each other out to get into Irish Water because it was known then as the gravy train. It was known as the gravy train because it was so much the most top-heavy organisation in the country. And there's no one accountable for anything. And as I said, I've been to many conferences, and seemingly, You meet the senior people, but the senior people are different at every conference. So I like this thing should never be there. And of course, I suppose to be fair to them, it was our own governments what at fault when they bowed down to the lunatics in Dublin who wouldn't pay for their water. Because that was their fund. That was the money they were supposed to keep them going. There's no seat in the world that you don't pay for your water. You'll pay for your water everywhere. I don't know why they can't do it in Dublin. So like that's, I have again in Crossbarry, there's three developers ready to go the last 3 years. We also want development in the scheme. But the three, this is the story now about Crossbarry. All that's needed is 4.5 million to upgrade the waste stream there, the wastewater stream. What I can't understand it, but the government gave Cork County Council 3 million towards it, and Cork County Council has nothing at all to do with it. There's only way, there's 1.3 million needed to upgrade down on top of the 3 million. That's what's needed. Irish Water said they have it, the government said they have it, and Cork County Council are refusing blank because it's no longer their facility. So think of that, like if they can't find 1.2 or 3 million to upgrade a plant in Crossbarry, where if it was done, you could have an extra 300 houses over there, or maybe 250 houses, which is very badly needed in that area. Well, like this is like we can name all the speakers have named 4 or 5. There's Shannonvale, there's Manway, there's here, there's Crossbarry, there's more than North Cork. This is nationwide. So, like you keep saying, where are we on the list? Or how soon can we get on the list? This is the big issue, is to get on the list and to see at what point, where are you going to get prioritised? And if our ministers and if our government can understand that a strong tourist town in West Cork that depends an awful lot on tourism doesn't need to be prioritised, I'm afraid we'd have to do something about that. And as I've often said before, over and over, I'm in Cork County Council, so, and all my colleagues there, we do our very best. But the doors to be knocking on in Dublin. That's where decisions are made. And that's where you meet the ministers. That's where you need to meet the people who make the decisions. Because whether there mightn't be any bosses in Irish Water, but Irish Water has a boss. And as well as that, the EPA have been criticised here tonight, and quite rightly so. And another thing was with Dunmanway, what we found impossible went on for a year and a half. There was a meeting called, and we were supposed to have in attendance the EPA, Cork County Council, Irish Water, there were 4 bodies as well, can't take them. But at no time could we ever get the whole of them down into one room. So they were dealing with too many agencies as well. So listen folks, whatever support I can give as a councillor, if you want me to entertain me, get you to have meetings in Cork with Cork County Council or anybody else, I'll do my very best for you. And listen, I wish you the best of luck with what you're doing. You're a great committee, and I would hope that you would see some progress in the near future. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe, and thanks to all the local representatives who spoke just there now. Does anyone else on the action on the committee want to say a few words tonight? Or will we open it up to questions? The floor. Yeah. So it's already on our list. We are meeting Irish Water and Cork Council in September. And it will definitely be one of the questions we'll be putting to them. Like you said, we don't want to be losing out on the next round of funding at all. So we'll definitely make sure to put that 100%, because we don't want to be kicking this down the can at all. The same as what's happening over in Shannon Vale, and we want to get this done. I have no interest in sitting up there for the next 10 or 15 years wasting my time. Yeah. I want to get this done as soon as possible.
As Isabel said, if they're talking about modelling and all that kind of thing, it's going to go past that date. So we have to kind of going past that and avoid it somehow.
For sure. Tony's going to say something here.
Yeah, just a quick question really. Instead of waiting for Ishka to do the modelling, would it be possible for the committee to commission reports themselves and just do a historical study with pollution incidents, weather, etc., and then go on and do anything else you want to do? like some scientific work or whatever. You're commissioning consultants, as plenty of consultants.
Did the council not do that?
I would imagine. Look, in a different world, that would probably make some sense, Tony. In fairness, but Irish Water they won't accept that. Like, and at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. What Irish Water call the shots, unfortunately, and they'll do their own modelling regardless. And look, it'd be great if it worked, but I don't think it's
You're looking back instead of forward by doing the history.
Yeah, look, we'll talk to Irish Water and see what they say, but I'd be sceptical of that one, to be honest. Yeah.
Just to mention earlier, both new people, new members of the committee, to represent the farming community. I may just nominate Donald Tobin for the sake of Alice.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Have we anyone else who'd like to say a word? Isabel.
It's just a question for the committee. I'm wondering, in all of your research, did the EPA ever admit that it needs upgrading? Because on the EPA website, it lists it as amber, meaning it needs upgrading. And I think Erin are answerable to the EPA. So we really don't need studies. Yeah. That's just something I wanted to clarify.
As far as we're aware, the studies are really about understanding the volume that's going through the plants and how big the capital project itself needs to be. That's as opposed to figuring out if there is a problem. The dogs in the street know there's a problem. So that's my understanding of what the. Now I could be wrong with that, but that would be.
Yeah, thanks. This is a fantastic work to the community, and I think it matters too that you're well known and you're trusted in the community, which is a huge thing. I'm in the Warren 4 or 5 times a week, all year round, so I know this spot well. But just one point about the EPA, there are beaches.ie website which kind of lists incidents at the Warren and so on, so there's a historical thing there that goes back to 2013, right? So it has, I have a copy of it here on the phone, 23 incidents since 2013. How they decide this, right? So 9 of the things they've listed are agricultural diffuse pollution. There's about 10 from sewage agglomeration, and then there's some from septic tanks. And incidentally, has anyone here ever had their septic tank, their private system tested? I haven't, right? I've been living in that house for the last 12 years. So, you know, there is Johnny made the point about personal responsibility and, you know, keeping our own house clean, which is absolutely correct, because whatever they do down there, the rest of us have a part to play, whether on private sewage, public as well. But beaches.ie, wherever they get their information, it's not all Irish Water if you look at that. Yeah, it's an EPA site, but I think it's run by the EPA, but the council are involved as well.
Council do the testing.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, in the one there, in the 16th to the 7th, sorry, in the 15th to the 7th, it was 8.5 times the test limit.
I know.
I can tell you how bad it must have been close to us.
The numbers will vary on that.
It was 8.5 times, and above that they can't test. But it's gone virtually to the maximum of that test.
Just very briefly there, John Hayes asked the question about how projects get on the different capital plans. The next plan is 2025 to 2029. He's absolutely right. If you don't get on that plan, you're into 2030. Just to give you a bit of context about how difficult the job we have of getting ROSSCARBERY onto that capital plan. Shannon Vale, which we know can be footage of sewage coming up through the village park, which is known to fail, which is known to be non-compliant. That's not even on the 2025 to 2029 plan. So the EPA are out there, the EPA are investigating it exactly. So that will tell you the challenge. So this idea of modelling and going through MARA and the different consents that you need and the different statutory processes that you have to go through, you're talking, they say 2026, I'd say it's more like 27, 28. So definitely one of the jobs I think for you guys in your meeting with Ishka is to find a mechanism other than this modelling where you can identify that this plant has failed and include evidence from the public, include where people of the public have seen and have visibly witnessed sewage emanating from the plant, not to disregard it. And take into account the fact as well, if you go right up the coast, this is the only plant that I know of that's on a headland in between two incredibly important beaches. And it just so happens that in recent years, they're the only two beaches in this area to fail an elevated level of bacteria. I don't know what more evidence they need. I don't know what modelling they need to do. So, yeah, John's right. This is time sensitive and we need to act fast. So, appreciate that. And guys, you have my full support. And I know there was confusion about the meetings, etc. And Neil, you were in touch on a regular basis. In fairness, you kept me updated and kept me involved. But I don't think we can have enough meetings about this, and I don't think it's any harm at all that we've packed the Celtic Cross for a second meeting in a row. So it's keep the pressure on. Thanks.
I just come back to the legal side of it. I mean, if we're under pressure and it looks like we're under serious pressure, if we're going to be within those next few years, can the likes of that evidence that you talked about, Christopher, can that not be used with the EPA to push on a legal side of it? Because it seems that the time is running out, so if you can't get the job done, then you have to look at another direction for it.
Would you guys have a meeting just be maybe putting an alternative plan in order? Like, as we said, we are running out of time here. If we do miss the deadline for this, probably need to think of an alternative plan to get this rolling, else we're waiting until the 2030 and it's just our tourism will be destroyed,
I suppose, can I just say, you know, having some experience in my lifetime of working with state and semi-state organisations, you know, the one thing I've learned then when I offered to go on this committee back in 2022, at that meeting, which Deputy O'Sullivan was responsible for calling, in which I agreed to go on that committee on the basis of, one, I have a great love, obviously, for the Warden and ROSSCARBERY and how important it is for ROSSCARBERY. But I also felt I had a lot of experience in dealing with state bodies and semi-state bodies and local authorities for my lifetime, you know, in the corporate sector that I worked in, and I know how difficult that is. So, you know, we cannot underestimate the challenge ahead for us really here, because whatever they talk about this modelling, one thing we do know, and I've learned this thing over the years, is that people in the public sector, they're conscious about hunting, they're conscious about governance, they're conscious about systems and compliance. And for us to be thinking that we can rush anything here, all of a sudden, we're deluding ourselves. And I'm sorry to have to say that, because we're going nowhere until this modelling, as I understand, Paul, until that's complete. There'll be no civil servant say, we're going to override this because these people down in ROSSCARBERY are going crazy over this thing. They're going to be fully compliant. Because if they're not compliant, and they're above, and we've seen semi-state bodies in the past where they were brought into the subcommittees and the doing they got because they weren't fully compliant on procedure. So we need to be realistic about this thing. And Shane, when you're talking about another plan, if we want to get consultants in relation to this thing, we're talking about hundreds of thousands. So I don't see that money forthcoming in the community. I just want to say that, you know, I was on this committee, not very active in it, but I just want to say this, that the amount of work that the people up there on the top table have put into this thing over the past number of years has been outstanding, really. And we'll always be indebted in this community for the work they have done. So I'm just saying that, you know, we need to be realistic here. And that's been my experience in dealing for the past 25 years. John Hayes was talking there about his little knowledge on renewables. I worked in that with John for many years as well. So, you know, if there are systems there will be the way these people that are making, and I'm not making case for Irish Water for what they have done here. I'm as conscious of this as anybody. So I'm just saying we need to be realistic here. The meeting we're having with Irish Water is going to be very important, and we need to have a plan. But the plan, you know, is meant to have. We can only ask the questions. We don't have the level of expertise that is required. The other point that was made there about the stones and the bridge, I don't know if someone raised it there in the background, and I just want to say about that I was in Winton here many years ago when that stones were put there, and they were put there solely to avoid flooding in houses around the lagoon. So we can never. That was the reason why they were put there. So we shouldn't forget that either. There were a lot of houses suffered serious flooding when there was a free flow of water in and out. So that's all I have to say. We need to be realistic here. There's going to be here this evening saying we do this and we do that.
Kieran, on that, like just on compliance, okay, because you do say that they abide by compliance. There's a 2020 EPA report stating that the plant is non-compliant.
Yeah,
it says that the EVL is non-compliant.
Well, Christopher, I've seen you in the talk, and if these people decided that they had the flexibility of moving money from one place to another, you know how they'd be treated by an Oireachtas subcommittee. So they're going to be compliant with, and I think we have no option but to go along with this modelling system that they're talking about. And I think it's important that it will be done because, you know, there's a whole lot of other elements to the sewer scheme here in Ross than just what's over on the tips, you know. So that's all I have to say.
One place they are accountable is the Oireachtas Committee. I think that myself.
They are, but if they do anything that's not in compliant, Christopher, you know that people like yourself will be on their house as well. We've seen what has happened with two other semi-state bodies in recent times. Thank you.
I know this sounds pathetic, but I just wondered if there's any chance that we could get them to remove the sludge even more often, just to keep it down for the short term.
Just very quickly, I obviously am not as involved in this and haven't been involved for a while, but from over the couple of years, the one thing that was very clear, I think, is what you've said there about the desludging. That's in the meeting we had online with Cork County Council and Irish Water, the thing that struck me was they said the budget for this additional desludging cannot be forwarded by 4 or 5 years. They cannot make a commitment for 4 or 5 years. They said you had to, they had to make, they had to try and get the investment agreed every year for the next year. So I find that bonkers. Like, I think the biggest thing we could, I think the committee here, and I probably won't be a part of it for the foreseeable just because I'm not working in the area, but the biggest thing the committee here needs is anyone who is a representative in, you know, Cork County Council or whatever to really fight to make sure that that can be changed, because I think what all the correspondence that's up there, you can multiply that by 5 or 6 times, you know, even 10 times. There was much more, and a lot of the time it was us prompting, saying, we've not heard from you, have you come back to us, you know, are we any further getting our meeting? So the more you have to do that, the more letters you have to write to get one response, that's difficult, and I think that's where the council can help. But I think for us to have to think about it as a voluntary committee, to have to think every single year, oh, we must remind the council that we need that additional funding to get that additional desludging. That's the biggest, it's those things that are very important short-term measures that just take a lot of time. So I think that what I'd say is you could triple the size of the committee and get 4 people or 5 people in letter writing alone, and that's what it needs to be able to push it forward. So I think if anyone from the council and any of the council representatives can take the commitment that they're going to fight to ensure that the desludging, the additional desludging, can be a commitment over 3-4 years rather than this. It might be in the budget this year, or it's in the budget this year, but it might not be for next year. That's the most frustrating thing. So that's something that I think anyone who's on council could maybe question, because we had one good year in the one where there was all this attention and the additional desludging was done to a greater level, but that was a lot of effort went into just that one action, which is the real difficulty. So on the only other thing about septic tanks and things, Irish Water did thoroughly quiz and investigate the Celtic Ross a year ago. They asked to see our grease trap records for every month of the year. They asked to see our effluent licence. Once I gave them that, they came straight back and asked could they see how often we desludged our grease trap. So I provided that paperwork. They then said could they see the data sheet of the chemical that we put into the grease trap, and I said yeah. So I got that and I gave them that again. And this all came one thing after the other, incredibly quickly. And when I asked why is that being, what's this about? They said, well, you're well aware. And I thought, you're well aware was the words they said of the issues at the Warren, and we're now focusing on the businesses to see that this, that they're doing things right. And I said, well, that's great, that's no bother. We'll provide all our paperwork. Are you doing this with every other business? No, just you. So I think that, to be honest, it was a good exercise for me to actually go, my God, are we doing all this? And then when I realised we were doing it all and we were kind of compliant and on top of it, but I think that does need to be done with everyone and every business that's in the area, and if they're really serious about it, they'll do it properly rather than picking one business and saying that, that's them, tick the box. So I think that is another thing that probably we need to focus on and look to ourselves and say, are we all doing the best we can as well? That's all, sorry.
I suppose just come in very briefly, it's really welcome to have a couple of new names and people to come to this committee, because that's going to bring new energy, a new way of thinking. And this meeting we've going to be having with Ishcare at the end of September is a really, really important meeting, and that's where we take the frustrations out of the whole wider group here and ask the key questions, because goalposts have changed a little bit. We've had issues in the Warren this summer. We're aware of the timelines of 2025-29 process of where schemes must get to. So yeah, it is a key question. This modelling that they're doing at the moment, what happens if it's not fully completed before the funding stream is announced for 2025-29? We need clear answers on that, and I would suggest that as a group we would probably meet again before we meet Ishcare, so that we have these key questions ready to ask and come back again and update, because we may well have to change tactic as a group if we don't get the right answers from that meeting. But it's through dialogue and engaging, and if we're happy with the answers, or if we're not happy, we change tactic after that. But I think that's the best way forward.
Right, I just have a few things there. I suppose from attending meetings regularly, if people don't get jobs going out to that meeting, we've failed. So I'm looking down here at all the public representatives, and the way I look at it is, I suppose, Cork County Council is one of the actors involved here. Cork County Council have a chief executive, Maura Morell, I'm sure you all know her. If Joe was still here, he'd say he knows her well because he was out to skip with her yesterday. Right, so what jobs do we want the council to do by over here? Well, I suppose we want you to try and arrange a meeting with Maura Morell, and if possible bring her down here to impress on her, because I know her reputation. She was down in Kerry, right? Coming out of COVID, tourism was a massive issue in Kerry. She put out all the stops down in Kerry and got tourism going again in Kerry. Now, we have her in Cork. So who is the best line to her? I would say it's the councillors. Right? So, Noel, all the rest of you here, that's your job. You have to get Maura Morell on side. If an event like this happens again, I think everyone here wants to know how it happened, why it happened, and what was the cause. Right? Under the law, Cork County Council are a key player in this. You should know this. Under European legislation and under Irish legislation. So they are bound by the law. So what do we want you to do? Well, we want you to do to make sure the council does their job here and to make sure they do all that. Now we've public reps here as well, and welcome and all, thank you for coming. But they also have a job to do. Right? What does the council say? They'll say, well, we don't get the funding. Well, how do we get the funding? Well, that's your job, to make sure that the council get the funding to carry out their duties under the Act and under the regulations. Right? So I suppose what I would like to see here is the TDs and the members of the office here and the senator to put on the West Cork jersey and fight for ROSSCARBERY and work together. Right? Because tourism is a massive industry here. We want the environment, but we also rely on tourism here in ROSSCARBERY. So I suppose two ways of approaching this: informally, talk between the groups and the people, and formally, to ask the right ministers the right questions and ensure you get the right answers. We don't want any flowery stuff or anything like that. We want the proper answers. And that's your job. And I'm sure everybody here will be watching and waiting to see what's going to happen. I know you'll be calling to the doors, right? And we're looking forward to it. But we want to make sure you have the answers when we call to the door, because I know you'll all be asking.
Right. Thanks, Mike. Do you all know your homework there now, Dee, from Mike D? So look, I think it might be time that we maybe call it a wrap for the night. I feel that we've all been here long enough, in fairness. Will the few people who are interested please come up and have a chat with us? And anybody else, bar the two people who have voiced their interest. If there's anyone else, please come up, and we'd love to have a talk to you. Thanks again to everyone who made the efforts to...
If they want to leave.
Thanks to everybody who made the effort to come this evening. If anybody wants to leave their email address to us here, we'll add you to the mailing list and any correspondence we have going forward, including our meeting with Irish Water and Cork County Council in September. We'll let you all know that. So thank you very much for coming.